What happens when you stop taking Adderall after a year straight? What happens? What are the withdrawals? What are the kicks? What happens when you stop taking Adderall? Adderall is a controlled substance. It is a substance that many have addictions to. It is a stimulant drug. And it's something that I'm prescribed because I'm ADHD. My name's Eric. If you're new to my channel, hit that like and subscribe button. It's all about mental health, mental illness, suicide awareness, making sure that nobody goes it alone in life. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a counselor. I'm diagnosed with ADHD, PTSD, GAD, and MDD. I lost a wife and a father to suicide, and I like to share all my experiences. I'm a recovering cocaine and alcoholic addict. And Adderall is something that I have been on a majority of my life. Originally, I was diagnosed ADD. Later on, I was re-diagnosed as ADHD. And the trial and error that I went through with medication has been Ritalin, Adderall XR, Adderall. And Adderall ended up being the medication that actually helped me the best. How I take my prescription is 10 milligrams in the morning and 10 milligrams in the afternoon. Taking Adderall for a year straight and then just stopping, what happens? Well, if you're ADHD, it fucks your life up. That's the easiest way I can put it. When I stopped taking it, anytime that I've ever stopped taking Adderall is typically because I ran out, because I let myself down of not setting up the doctor appointment, how I needed to set up the doctor appointment, and I am now out of medication. And so it wasn't something out of choice. I've never ran out of my medication because I've abused it. I ran out of my medication because I'm going, oh, I'm out of meds and I need to call my doctor. And next thing you know, I can't get in for 2 to 3 weeks. That's what has ended up happening to me. And so when I have ended and stopped with Adderall, the last time most recently was over the summer. I'd been on Adderall for a little over a year straight, never missed it by a dose. Next thing you know, I run out of Adderall. I can't get into my doctor appointment for, it was about 2 to 3 weeks I was out. And what it's like getting off of Adderall is my body didn't go through any like detox withdrawals. My body went through a mental withdrawal, but not your typical pause when it comes to addiction. Pause is post-acute withdrawal syndrome. My brain went through the detox in the sense almost of it can't focus. When you are ADHD, your thoughts are all over the place. It's like fireworks are constantly going off. And when you do take a stimulant drug, it allows you, with all these different things going on, to be able to focus on one thing from start to finish, focus on another start to finish, another start to finish. When you take that medication away, the first day of not having it, you do kind of push through. You know, to-do list helps, even caffeine helps. I know what coping does help with ADHD, especially if you run out of your meds. Caffeine is a stimulant, so it does help slow us down some. To-do list helps keep us focused. I have fidget cubes, fidget spinners. I have a fidget seat. So I had these different things to help me. The first day didn't notice a whole lot. The second day, though, I started realizing what happened is a lot of my thoughts started reflecting on the previous day of you didn't get much done. And all of a sudden, I noticed myself becoming more and more trapped inside my prison of my brain. I didn't feel any physical detox. There was no body aches. There's no vomiting. There's no difference in how I'm using the bathroom. There's no throwing up. There's no shakes. There's no shifting in my temperature from sweats to cold sweats to no sweats. It was all literally me quieting down and becoming stuck in this prison. And I noticed it and watched it happen more and more and more. And each day it got progressively worse. And about 5 days, I'd gotten to the point that my depression had now started to really kick in along with my anxiety, because what happens is when you are used to being able to focus, being productive, all of a sudden you're realizing that you're not productive, you're not adulting, you're not doing what you need to do. You start to become depressed, that what's wrong with me, those types of feelings start to filter in, along with I'm not doing anything and it's getting worse. What do I do? That fear starts to build in, and that impending doom starts to build in, and a lot of negative self-talk starts to build in. That was what was ended up happening to me, a lot of negative self-talk. In fact, when I had last attempted to commit suicide, which was in September 2018, it was literally, I had forgotten to take my Adderall for a while. I had forgotten to take my Adderall. I had left a job. I had stopped taking my Adderall, everything. It kind of screwed me in the brain a little bit. But the next thing I know, I'm not being productive. I'm not looking for another job, and a bunch of hopelessness crept in. My biggest fear when it comes to any of the medications that I'm on is I have to keep the hopelessness away. If hopelessness gets in, being depressed and being sad to me is one thing, but when hopeless and I feel hopeless and there is no hope, when that comes in, that is my biggest red flag, red cue of I need help. And that came in about 5 days after not taking Adderall, because I realized how paralyzed I was. And I literally felt trapped. And don't get me wrong, I am not paralyzed in any fact, but I was paralyzed by my brain, where I would sit and think about doing all these different things, exhaust myself sitting and thinking about all these different things, but not doing a single thing. And then building up the fear that I'm letting everybody down, I'm worthless. And then the negative self-talk became more and more and more and more, to the point that I realized how much I really needed help. And it even got to the point where I started calling with my doctor. Finally got it to the point that I could do a video call with him to get him to prescribe me my meds, which he ended up doing for me, which really saved me, because if I go a long period of time without it, I don't feel any of the withdrawals. I feel all the mental of, man, I'm not functioning. And it's a night and day difference. And the hard part is when you stop that medication, you have a little bit in your system, I'd like to say, for a little bit. But as soon as that goes away and you lose total control over this, it becomes so overwhelming, so paralyzing, that you literally can sit and do nothing. And then there's a lot of temper and anger that can come in. I mean, there's tons of different things that happen when you are ADHD, because you are very spontaneous. You don't think things through. And that's one of the scary parts about being ADHD, is the fact that we don't think things through. So sometimes we're doing things that we shouldn't necessarily be doing, or we go to self-medicating, which was something I had to stay away from, because I had self-medicated for a long time through alcohol and cocaine, which created a whole different monster. It did help out in a sense, but it created a whole different monster. And so it's going, okay, I'm doing it dry in a sense this time. What do I do? And there's only so much that even doing the to-do list after about 5 days and realizing that I'm not doing anything on the to-do list became a negative reverse on me. And I'm beating myself up like, dude, you know what you have to do and you can't even do this. You're weak, you're broken, you're damaged, you're all of this. And it's like, nope, I'm not. So if you do run out of your meds, the big thing is you've got to get that positive reinforcement back in, because that's what helped me kind of push through. It was that positive reinforcement reminding me that it's okay, reminding me that it's my meds. And it also reinforced my brain that, hey, during this time right now, it's going to be a struggle. All you can do is all you can do, and all you can do is good enough. And I kept literally repeating that to myself. All I can do is all I can do, and all I can do is good enough. Of this firework, massive brain, just thought process going, and keeping away that hyperactivity side, because as soon as that hits, that's when, you know what, maybe I should just end this and it'll all be over with. And I'm not thinking through a lot of the thoughts. So that's where it is very dangerous in my case that I know of. And I've even discussed it with my doctors many of times of how my thought process works and what my biggest fears are. Again, my biggest fear, if you can't tell, is hopelessness. If I feel true hopelessness, that is the worst of anything and everything to me, because that's when I want to end it. And it's a very logical wanting to end it. There is no emotion there. I'm not crying, nothing. I can sit there and sell you and convince you of why I need to die, because I'm doing it to myself, and I'm a pretty fucking good salesman. So when you stop with these meds and you stop them, get with the doctor immediately. If you run out, it's one thing. Get with your doctor, check into about the video conferencing, whatever you can to get the meds done. Because I've been there. I have missed doctor's appointments and didn't realize that it was a doctor appointment to get my script. And next thing you know, I'm out. It does happen. Shit happens. And when it happens, though, it is a scramble. It is scary that you're hustling to try and get back at it. But it's okay. We all do it. I'm sure we have all been through it before, where we forget, even down to the point that one of the things you can do is, if your spouse kind of steals a couple from you and kind of hides them for you, that you do have like a little emergency reserve. That does help. It is one of the things that I do have is a little bit of an emergency reserve, so that if I do run out, I can muddle through the day with enough to get me to my next doctor appointment. Just because if I run out completely and I'm off this medication completely for a while, that hopelessness, my thoughts, I can't control any of the shit. So when you do stop with Adderall, if you do need it, this is something that you might feel. Again, I didn't feel any withdrawals. I didn't feel any kicks. There was no physical detoxing for me, but there was a lot of mental of when it goes into, man, I'm going through a nightmare right now. And I'm watching this nightmare and I'm living this nightmare, and asking for help is huge. Positive reinforcement is huge. And you got this. I mean, if you've ever struggled with time off of Adderall, I'd love to have you comment below, because the more that we share, the more that it helps nobody feel alone, especially when you're ADHD. It is a diagnosis that, it's hard to register because we go, oh, it's a learning disorder, it's this, I'm broken, and we do a lot of beat up when it comes to ADHD. So I'd love to have you comment below. Hit the like and subscribe button if you're new. I mean, I do everything I can to bridge the gap between therapy and a crisis hotline, and sharing all the experiences, tools, and support that I can so that nobody goes it alone. In the description, I have links to all my different social medias. I have links to mental health Discord communities for free peer-to-peer support. I have links to things on Amazon that I use, like fidget cubes, fidget spinners, things that I use to help me with my anxiety. I even have links down below to the mental health rehab that I work with if you want to get into a rehab center to help with the trial and error, all the way down to even BetterHelp if you've never even had a therapist before. Because again, it's trial and error for what works for you. What works for me may not work for you, and vice versa, but you're not alone. So comment down below. You're worth it. And don't ever forget that. You're a BAMP. You're a badass motherfucker. You've made it through 100% of your worst days, make it through 2 today, and we got this.